Years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on.
Jim Carrey didn't just go off the rails, he blew the lid off late-night television. We watched it unfold in real time. The manic grin, that patented Carrey unpredictability suddenly morphing into something else. He sits on the Jimmy Kimmel Live stage and the air changes. We expect wild antics, maybe a little slapstick, maybe an impression or two, but instead, Carrey fixes Kimmel with a look and starts in on a tirade that leaves the audience squirming. He calls out Kimmel and the entire pantheon of late-night hosts as puppets for Washington, the DC echo chamber. Not even 10 seconds in, Carrey is flashing those infamous Illuminati hand signs right there on national television, practically daring someone at ABC to cut the feed. He hurls the accusation that comedy itself, our nightly wind-down ritual, our supposed relief from the chaos outside, is nothing more than a government tool, engineered to distract us all from the real story that's being written in rooms we'll never see.
Oh, like you don't know what it is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
Oh, you don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
We don't know.
All the comics and show business don't know what this is. Right? Yeah.
What is it?
Come on, Jimmy. Seriously, the time is up. People are hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistle.
This wasn't the kind of off-script moment that gets played off with canned laughter and a quick commercial break. No, the studio was completely silent, save for a few gasps, and someone, somewhere, nervously clearing their throat. The crowd didn't know whether to clap, to laugh, or to check if this was some elaborate bit. But Carrey didn't blink. He pressed on, repeating it for anyone just tuning in. Late-night hosts are puppets, late-night comedy is cover, and the so-called free press is just a well-lit stage. Sabotage, not stand-up.
Dumb and Dumber 2 opens tomorrow. Please say hello to Jim Carrey.
Now, if this had been any other week, we might have brushed it off as just another actor unraveling under the studio lights. But this wasn't just any week. Within hours, Jimmy Kimmel Live was yanked off the air, suspended. The official statement said, but nobody could miss the stink of censorship all over the move. And the timing, down to the minute. The FCC had just leaned on ABC, not even trying to hide it, after Kimmel's infamous monologue scorched both Trump and the MAGA crowd for their reaction to Charlie Kirk's shooting. Kimmel went after Trump for his bizarre public grieving, then jabbed at the right's attempts to twist the Kirk tragedy into political capital. It was merciless, even by Kimmel's standards, and for a moment it looked like he was bulletproof. Until he wasn't. By the next day, the show's set was dark, the staff stunned, the public left guessing, and Carrey's meltdown? It aired just as Kimmel was being shown the door. Performance art, or a coded confession from a man who knew exactly why his host was about to vanish from the airwaves.
And then we installed the most beautiful chandelier. Sconces you wouldn't believe. There's something wrong with them. There really is. I mean,
that's where the real speculation begins to burn. The silence from ABC, the rapid-fire rumors. Was this about one too many Trump jokes or something bigger? Disney, the parent company pulling the strings, suddenly goes radio silent, just as they're begging Washington for federal approval on multi-billion-dollar mergers. According to industry veterans and more than one ex-Disney suit, there was a deal on the table. Keep regulators happy, keep the FCC out of the boardroom, and keep the anti-Trump heat dialed down, especially when the political climate is boiling over. Suddenly, the most powerful comic voice on late night, the one with nothing to lose and nothing left to negotiate, is off the air with the flick of a switch. If you're following the breadcrumbs, Carrey's tirade starts to sound less like a breakdown and more like a fire alarm. Get out, while you can, because the laughter isn't free anymore. Your favorite jokes traded for a green light on a merger. Nobody wants to say it out loud, but we all saw it. The betrayal, the cold corporate calculation, our nightly comfort food sold to the highest bidder. Every punchline, every so-called unscripted moment, now filtered through lawyers and Washington handlers. And that's not even touching the latest nuclear rumor, the comedy blacklist. Whispered about for years, denied by every network exec, but now dragged into the spotlight by Carrey, the one guy reckless enough or angry enough to name names on live television. The Do Not Joke list, a roster of politicians, tragedies, and cultural flashpoints that comedians are told to steer clear of unless they're looking for a swift trip to career oblivion. Rogan, Burr, notice how they've all suddenly got nothing to say about the government giving Jimmy Kimmel the hook. For a crew that built empires on free speech, their silence is deafening. Industry insiders claim that every stand-up in LA got the memo. Talk out of turn, joke about the wrong subject, and you'll be cut off from bookings, sponsors, maybe even your bank account.
Honestly, I mean, look, Jimmy Kimmel can be funny, and I don't mean to take anything away from that. But the fact of the matter, can you remember a political joke that went viral, what was something really funny of his? There was no attempt in humor at all in what he said.
And here comes Carrey, the eternal anarchist, blowing that secret wide open on the very show that's now a crime scene for free speech. Was he protecting Kimmel, calling out a system he once played along with, or just lashing out before the walls closed in? Either way, the message landed with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. If even Kimmel, who dined with the Disney brass and gave the FCC just enough plausible deniability to keep their hands clean, can be silenced this fast, then nobody's safe. Not Stewart, not Colbert, not even Gervais, who, let's face it, probably smells the smoke but likes the attention too much to run. Behind the scenes, it's even messier. The FCC chairman flexed on ABC and its affiliates, making it clear that the government expected action after Kimmel's refusal to parrot the White House's take on Charlie Kirk's shooting. It wasn't just another Twitter pile-on or a handful of angry emails. This was the kind of state muscle flexing that used to send shivers down the spines of newsroom bosses back in the McCarthy days. "This is government censorship," said one top comic who went public just hours after the suspension, calling it a deciding moment for free speech in America. The stakes? Just the future of every late-night show, every streaming stand-up special, every campus tour from here to Riyadh.
Speaking of free speech and cancellation, Jimmy Kimmel, the late-night show comedian in the US, he's had a show for decades now, I think. He's been cancelled, apparently. At least his show has been paused indefinitely, and that's because of a monologue that he gave in which he tried to suggest that the shooter in the Charlie Kirk political assassination is part of the MAGA movement.
And the blacklist? We're not talking urban legend anymore. Several agents have confirmed, off the record, that clients have been warned in writing about material that cannot be used in performance, social media, or recorded content. Mention certain names, Charlie Kirk's being only the most recent addition, or reference ongoing investigations, and you're out. The only thing faster than the network shutdown switch is the blacklist call that comes from your own agent. Play ball or find out just how quickly your Netflix deal can turn to dust. Even Rogan, who usually has 2 hours of material on why he can say anything he wants, has been uncharacteristically quiet, fact-checking in the background while the government goes full censor on his old man show co-host. It's not just comedians getting squeezed either. Network insiders say Disney, Nexstar, and Sinclair are all desperate to keep the feds sweet as they chase after mergers, acquisitions, and new streaming deals that hinge on federal approval. The blood was barely dry from the Kirk shooting before every boardroom in LA and New York started working the phones, asking who needed to be fired, benched, or muzzled to keep those billions moving. The outrage over Kimmel's Trump jokes and the Kirk fallout? It's theater. The real negotiations are happening in back rooms, where the only thing that matters is whose jokes are the least expensive to cancel.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score.
Meanwhile, the fallout keeps spreading. Kimmel, once the king of late night, spotted lawyering up in Century City, the gossip mill churning out rumors of a mega payout lawsuit if ABC tries to hang him out to dry. Disney execs are split. Some want the drama to cool off, others are leaking that Kimmel's contract was already on the ropes long before his Kirk monologue. Either way, nobody's pretending it's about ratings anymore. If anything, the scandal is the point. For every anchor getting suspended or every comic being told to shut up, there are a dozen more watching and wondering if it's time to bail before the blacklist hits their inbox. And the industry's top names? The so-called free speech warriors are heading for the exits. Or, in a twist nobody saw coming, to Riyadh of all places, where a government with its own appetite for censorship is more than happy to pay American comics a small fortune to keep it light and apolitical. It's a grim punchline. When Saudi Arabia looks like the safer gig, you know something's broken. Comedians who once made a living poking the bear have been reduced to mute extras, watching as the government, the networks, and the corporate overlords decide whose jokes are safe for America.
The fallout from Charlie Kirk's has spread to the workplace. People are getting fired for comments that seem to celebrate or glorify the assassination of the MAGA activist and father of 2 young children.
We've seen the consequences ripple out beyond television. Writers, producers, even pilots and retail workers are getting fired for offhand comments about the Kirk shooting. One tweet, one joke, and you're out. The message is clear. The rules have changed, and not in the fun improv way. Suddenly, teachers, sports writers, and even Secret Service agents are under investigation for how they talk or don't talk about Charlie Kirk, Jimmy Kimmel, and the new blacklist of forbidden topics. No one is immune, from the janitor who mumbled the wrong punchline in the break room to the headline act on the late-night stage. As the dust settles, there's Carrey's warning echoing over the chaos. Was it a meltdown, a confession, or just the first honest broadcast in years? Either way, we're left staring at a world where every laugh track comes with a footnote. Every monologue is a minefield, and the ground beneath the comedy world is shifting fast, too fast for anyone to feel safe.
I don't want to ever celebrate somebody losing their TV show. I think the outrage over somebody losing their TV show should be dwarfed by the outrage over somebody losing their life, over a decent, God-fearing, wonderful, lovely person trying to have conversation.
The real heartbreak here isn't just a late-night host getting silenced. It's the industrial-grade machinery whirring behind the scenes, hiding the motivations in plain sight. We watched as Jimmy Kimmel's career vaporized at the exact moment Disney, Nexstar, and Sinclair were lined up at Washington's door, hands out for federal blessings. Let's not pretend this is coincidence. The same week Kimmel is dragged off the air, Disney's bean counters are sweating over the NFL buy-in for ESPN. A multi-billion-dollar merger tying Fubo to Hulu, and the whole thing hinges on the FCC nodding yes. Nexstar is salivating over a $6.2 billion takeover of Tegna. Sinclair, supposedly reviewing its empire for strategic options, has lawyers prepping the paperwork for whatever deal brings the fewest federal headaches. All of it, down to the dotted line, needs approval from DC regulators. Regulators who just so happen to be watching Jimmy Kimmel Live spiral out of control in primetime.
They don't need a reason to fire you if you're an at-will employee, which most workers in the US are at-will contracts. So they can fire you because you wore green instead of blue one day. It doesn't matter. Really, what the leader's job at these private employers is to identify the workers who are aligned with the culture that they're trying to cultivate, the strategy that they have to achieve their results towards their...
So was Kimmel really booted for a hot take, or was he served up as a peace offering? One former ABC exec didn't mince words. You think it's about a monologue? Come on, you pull the show, you buy goodwill. We're talking about a network where even the green room isn't safe from Washington's reach. For Disney, the decision isn't about comedy or public outrage or even whether Kimmel was losing his fastball. It's about leverage. Trading your most politically radioactive star to sweeten a deal, banking on regulators being too distracted by headlines to look too closely at your real estate. Call it corporate sacrifice, call it blackmail, call it a cost of doing business in an America where punchlines are now bartered for market access. But let's be real. We all just watched a boardroom swallow a talk show host and smile for the cameras. Then came the part that really twists the knife. Comedy, once the weapon used to mock kings and keep the powerful sweating, has become a ministry of PR. It's no longer the court jester, it's the state clown, decked out in patriotic colors, keeping the audience calm, making sure nobody laughs at the wrong target. Jon Stewart, always the ironist, steps up to the all-new, government-approved Daily Show, drenching the room in sarcasm. He can barely finish a line without the announcer hyping him as a patriotically obedient host. Even Jimmy Fallon, that affable class clown, admits live that he's just as in the dark as everyone else. Then, whenever a Trump joke gets too close to a nerve, his own show smothers it with syrupy applause. This isn't wit. It's not even parody. It's what you get when the punchlines come stamped with an official seal.
Such as, for example, creating disharmony in the workplace, then that freedom of speech isn't necessarily protected. And so there is different standards, there's a higher bar. However, there still is the ability to, if someone is, for example, inciting violence, that is not protected speech, even for a government.
Meanwhile, the free speech warriors who once made a living taunting the thought police are suddenly running silent. Rogan, Burr, pick your provocateur, none of them are risking their necks to question what just happened. The blacklist isn't a rumor anymore. It's a memo with bullet points. If the government can shut down a late-night juggernaut for one monologue, what's to stop them from deciding who gets to headline a festival, who gets to say what on a podcast, who gets a green light for a Netflix special? The next time you see a comic spinning stories about cancel culture, ask yourself, if it's that bad on Twitter, what's it like when the government's calling the shots? The real gut punch, though, is that the comedy scandal didn't just land on an empty Newsweek. We're barely finished reeling from the university tragedy, a conservative firebrand shot on campus, the whole country lighting up with grief, suspicion, and vengeance. Charlie Kirk, 31, gunned down in full view of his followers. The shooter's motives, smeared across headlines and shell casings, still being sifted by the FBI and Utah investigators. As the nation held vigils and politicians poured out statements, the late-night world went mute, comedians were gagged, and even the networks looked paralyzed. But here's a pattern. The minute Kimmel dared mock the grief and call out the narrative wars, the hammer came down. Not just him. Anyone who questioned the official story, anyone who poked the wrong bear, was put on ice.
And I think Obama's lying about saying, oh, I really didn't know him. You know exactly who the hell.
In the aftermath, the censorship didn't just stop at comedians. Media figures, pilots, even a Secret Service staffer lost their jobs for social media posts that questioned, criticized, or mocked the official handling of Kirk's passing. Corporate statements rained down faster than any punchline. Delta, American Airlines, Office Depot, the message was as loud as it was chilling. Toe the line, or TMZ, caught laughing in the wrong moment, issued an apology so fast you could see the panic sweat forming on camera. Even the president's press secretary, even the Speaker of the House, all got in on the ritual of condemning, apologizing, and reciting the script. But let's drag what's hidden into the light. What are they actually trying to keep off the airwaves? Kirk's demise isn't just a tragic headline, it's an earthquake, and every aftershock feels deliberate. As details trickled out about the shooter's ideology, the suspect's odd online footprint, the cryptic bullet messages, the abrupt clampdown on dissent, Carrey's meltdown starts to feel less like Hollywood melodrama and more like a coded warning. He wasn't just rambling about hand signs and puppets, he was trying to say in the only language left that the whole system is now a controlled performance. You want the real story? Don't expect to see it in the monologue. Don't even expect to hear it whispered on a podcast.
You can pause it right there because so what do you, Tom? What do you think about the whole Caitlin Collins, CNN, Ted Cruz, and Barack Obama?
Okay, first of all, Caitlin Collins and Ted Cruz. You have to remember, every interview that is on CNN is just like an article. You read an article that's like describing a guy. They call them man in full articles, Vanity Fair. Then there's hit pieces. Then there's investigation. And everything you see on CNN is one of those.
It's not only the comedians who are feeling the chill. Even political commentators and sports writers are getting swept up in the backlash, fired or suspended for insensitive comments about the Kirk case or the fallout, all while new rounds of violence spark fresh calls for security funding, more surveillance, more control over who gets to speak and who doesn't. Is this how dissent gets erased in real time, not by force, but by quietly locking every exit door until only the approved voices remain? And where does that leave us? The people sitting in the audience, the ones who used to laugh, used to debate, used to trust that even if the news lied, at least the comics would wink and tell us the truth. That safety valve is gone. The comedians are in costume, the executives are counting merger dollars, the government is watching who claps and who posts the wrong meme. For a country that loves to brag about free speech, it's starting to look a whole lot like the punchlines are written by committee. So let's not get it twisted. Carrey's performance wasn't a stunt, it wasn't comedy, and it wasn't a breakdown. It was a flare fired high above the circus tent, signaling that something is rotten at the center of the show. The real question, the one we can't shake, is simple. Was Carrey blowing the whistle on the biggest cover-up in late-night history, or just painting a target on his own back? If you can't joke about a political tragedy, if corporations are trading truth for deals, and if comedians have become the new press secretaries, what kind of country is this turning into? Let us know below. Is Carrey a madman screaming into the void, or is he the last truth teller left standing in a world of puppets? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more of the stories nobody else dares to tell, you know where to find us. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and good night while you still can.